nerds, I'm Tom. Today we're going to talk about the board game equivalent of falling asleep in the bathtub. Now I'll be the first one to admit that I am definitely not the target audience for this game. This is very much a tile placement game, and I really don't much care for tile placement. I mean, unless it's like a small part of a much bigger game. I mean, this has like a little bit of drafting involved, and you're moving this this hot air balloon around, but it's like 90% tile placement, so that's definitely not my jam. But just in general, this still feels like a really intro-y, kind of boring, mediocre, run-of-the-mill type of game. So you start off by rolling some dice. It's going to tell you where you're going to be able to move your hot air balloon. Now you can like re-roll the dice, which doesn't always give you the result you want still, and you can like spend a bunch of energy, which is really like the only resource in the game to mitigate and move your balloon to where you really need to get it to. And then there's some drafting of some tiles, which are mostly just terrain tiles. There's also city tiles and monuments, I think they're called. Those are just things that will give you points in other ways, but the main thing that you're trying to do is place out all these terrain tiles in the section that they're supposed to go and make like a really big clump of the same type of terrain, because that'll get you a lot of points. So right after you draft the tiles, you decide if you're going to keep them or burn them for energy, which again is the resource in the game. And if you keep them, then you can go ahead and place them adjacent to your balloon. So wherever your balloon lands, it's adjacent to that is where you're going to be able to place your tiles, so you can see that where your balloon is super important. And then after that, you decide turn order, which is ultimately decided by which number your balloon landed on. Like it is significant because going first in the draft is important, because that way you can get the tiles you want. And if you go last, then you're the one who rolls the dice for everybody, and you can decide whether to re-roll or not, which gives you a little bit of power, but again, you're still at the whim of the dice. If they roll badly for you, that doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to roll this. It's going west. I don't want that. I'm going to re-roll. Oh, still going west. Okay, I'm really glad I went last. I'm going to be last in the draft and still not get to go the way I want to go. But I never found myself like making that decision while moving the balloon. I was really just focused on moving the balloon to where I needed to go so I could place the tiles I wanted to place. And I almost like would constantly forget that, oh, I landed on a 6 here. That means that I'm definitely going to go first. Okay, well, I hope those dice come up, or I don't really need to go first, but whatever, I guess I'll go first. Like it's really not something you think about during the game. Now, there are 2 other modules in the game. One of them has to do with this thing where you can buy tiles, and actually I didn't play that. I looked at the rules, I was like, that's a lot, I'll do that later. This other one, okay, everybody has their own special tiles. Okay, that's a lot easier to do. And one of the tiles actually had to do with that board where you buy extra tiles, so I was like, oh, let's just ignore that one, or let's just say that one's just worth 3 points, that's fine. And I figured, oh, I'll play this module 2 later, and I have no desire to do that. I have no desire to play this game again. Look, I've played tons of really bad games where just the rules don't make sense, they're extremely clunky, like they're extremely unbalanced, just unfun, minutia, and just garbage. I have played those mostly in prototype form, and I really think that by now the industry is in such a way that those games don't really make it to market. They kind of get weeded out, at the design phase. Like they get pitched and people don't buy them, and they go on Kickstarter and they don't get funded. So nowadays I think mediocrity is the new bad in a way. Like a game just being slow and boring and having nothing to offer is kind of the biggest sin it can have nowadays. And honestly, that's what I felt. I always feel like it's so slow, so boring. Like I have little to no fun every single moment of the game. Like the drafting is a little bit interesting, the moving the balloon around is a little bit interesting, and the placing the tiles is super boring, which nets it to like a -4 in my brain. I mean, look, even the other people who I've played this with who like tile placement games were kind of like, yeah, that wasn't bad, but I don't want to play it again. And, I really hate to say it. I hate to just trash on a game. But, I mean, at this point, like, I get it could be used as like an intro game in a way. Sure. Now, I don't think we need more intro games. I think there's tons of great intro games out there. I think, was it Kohaku by 25th Century Games? That's a better intro to tile placement game. It has a lot more. It's still easy to learn, and it has a lot better decisions. And even Stronghold themselves have better games. Like, of course, I love the Terraforming Mars line, but if we're going to talk about a lighter game, well, the Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, we have a full review for that up on our YouTube channel. That's a much better and more interesting game that's still really light and can be taught relatively well to new players. Probably not as light as this one, but still, it's pretty light. I don't really have much else to say because I definitely don't recommend this game. We are going to put a purchase link to this in the description box down below if you hate yourself. Also down there, of course, Game Toppers. Also down there, subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored. But boom, Tom out. Sup nerds, I'm Tom, and today we're going to talk about the board game equivalent of shoving a bunch of Ambien up your ass. Sorry, that's too much.